Thank you for joining us. Us. What am I saying? Us. It's me. Thank you for joining me. My name is Brant. I'm in here by myself. I'm going to get Tyler back in here sometime soon, but I actually spaced. The reason the podcast is late this week, I totally spaced on it. I woke up like the day after I'm supposed to do it and like, oh, wait, I forgot. And it's because I've been so buckled down on a book deadline, just completely focused on this, trying to get this thing done and make it good. But anyway, that's what happened. By the way, I want to say thank you to United Faith Mortgage for sponsoring this. I'll share a little bit more about them later at the end and how awesome they are. But so I was writing the book and I was in Starbucks the other day. And at this Starbucks, they have in the middle, they have this double sided bench with little tables on each side. So it's this incredibly long bench that spans the length of the restaurant at this location. And I was in the middle. There's nobody else sitting on my side of the bench, okay? I just need you to understand that. There are people scattered about, at tables or whatnot, but on my side of the bench, I'm in the middle. I'm working at my little table, typing, very focused. A dude orders something and then sits down a foot away from me, and he's talking on the phone the entire time at full conversational level. I mean, it was just it was next level because I was thinking like you could sit anywhere. You could be 5 feet that direction. You could be 8 feet that direction on the same bench, but you chose to wedge yourself in to the middle thing, like between tables, so you could sit a foot away from me and talk. And he was talking about business stuff, and it irked me. Like, who does this? And okay, so I thought, all right, let me do my thing. It's forgiveness practice, right? So I asked for God to bless him and his family and his business. And I, like I've shared before, I could feel my temperature dropping as I'm doing it. It was still a scientific curiosity. I'm still interested sociologically, like why you would do something like that. But it went from irritation to just amazement and just curiosity. I wanted to ask him. He never got off the phone. I literally was like, is there a way I can ask him what he was thinking? Probably not without making him mad. But I genuinely was just curious. However, that's a petty little thing, right? And I could get very upset about it. We could. It could drive us crazy. We could complain about it all day, that sort of thing. But those things are a big deal. And I call it forgiveness practice, but it's not just practice. I got another note about a little petty thing that happened. This is from Chris. She said, your podcast intrigues me. It gives me much to think about. I think, yeah, thank you. Easter service was packed. Right before the service started, a man who was built like a linebacker grabbed the seat beside me. I am a female, size small. I could barely breathe. He was taking up so much space. He stood in front of me as we sang. I thought he might elbow me in the face. I thought it's Easter. Jesus gave it all, and instead of rejoicing, I'm caught up in my discomfort. I'm getting offended. Then I thought, if Jesus gave it all for me, what can I give this man? It was simple. I could give him my space, and I gave it as a gift. It's no longer mine. I closed my eyes, gave him my space, and suddenly I was back to rejoicing. It was pretty cool. Plus, he did eventually move over a smidge. Chris says that's excellent. Again, petty thing, small thing, but these are irksome, and I applaud you for forgiving in the moment. So we've talked about this thing, right? So this is a reminder of many reminders. But Jesus makes it clear that we're forgiven as we forgive. So it's a choose your own adventure kind of thing. He does that with the several times, but in the parable of the unmerciful servant, where the guy is forgiven much, and then he's not forgiven anymore because he wouldn't forgive somebody else. It's like he was forgiven because he asked, but ultimately he is judged as he judges others. You, you, the measure you use will be measured with you. So it's a choose your own adventure kind of thing. Like that's a real consideration. What? How do I want? How much do I want God to forgive me? How am I going to address other human beings? And then when we have an opportunity, even if it's a petty little thing like this, okay, great. Here's an opportunity to choose my level of forgiveness that I want. And if that sounds Like, I don't know. So if that sounds heretical to you or something, I would implore you to actually read the scriptures again and take Jesus really seriously on this stuff about the measure and being judged as we judge. I think it matters a lot. So you can see opportunities like these as opportunities to do the thing. Here you go. Here I go. Okay, I know I'm living with the reality of God's forgiveness for me every day and what He's been willing to do. Now I'm in that unmerciful servant role, or I can be the merciful servant and let this other person off the hook. That's a real thing. Here's another reason, another way to view this. It takes you to the next level because even though it's a petty little opportunity, it's a petty little thing that somebody's doing. This is what trains you so that you can handle something that's bigger, and that will happen. There are things that are going to come at you. You want to be ready to handle. Like I had a friend this weekend who was betrayed in a major way by a very longtime friend, and it cut him to the quick. And his response a couple days later was forgiveness. It took him a bit, but he knew he had to, and he expressed that. And I don't want to get into the details of it, but it was a much bigger deal. It was a cut to the heart. This could last the rest of my life. I could be angry about this sort of thing. But he has saved himself a lot of grief, a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, a lot of time by practicing the way of Jesus and extending forgiveness to somebody who, of course, they don't deserve it. That's the whole point. As I'm fond of saying, we don't forgive because they deserve it. We forgive because we didn't, and we don't deserve it. So it's an opportunity. The petty little stuff, don't underrate that. I joke about traffic being forgiveness practice, but it's real, and it's not just practice. It's real, and it's the sort of thing that changes our character. So I want to encourage you to keep doing that. To that end, too, just like Chris sent me this email saying, "Hey, I'm applying this thing." If you would like to send me an email about specifically about how you're applying this stuff that we're talking about, like an anecdote would be great. It doesn't have to be a huge thing, but I'd like to know if it's making a difference for you. Not the podcast per se, but the application of this kingdom principle of operating in a radically forgiving way. I would love to know because it's encouraging to other people. It's encouraging to me, but it's encouraging to other people too. I can share it or not. If you don't want me to share it, you just let me know. But it's my email address is just Brant at branthansen.com. And if you want to just put in the RE line like LU podcast or something, just give me a quick anecdote. I would love that. One last thing, and this is tricky to talk about because you'll think I'm like subtexting or subtweeting some other thing. I'm really not. It is prompted by the news. Okay, obviously we're in a war at the time of this recording, but I'm actually not commenting on it because I don't want to go there. I leave that to all sorts of other people. I have opinions. You have opinions. Other people have opinions, and there's a billion ways to access those opinions. I think it's interesting though that Jesus doesn't comment that we know of, unless I'm missing something, on any specific geo political war or conflict that's going on with the Romans. You know what I mean? Not in terms of like this particular battle or this effort and against the good grief. What am I thinking? Like in Germania or so, the limes of the Roman Empire, which I do think about the Roman Empire at least twice a day. But that's not the point. The point is, I think it's interesting because if he did to a specific situation like people wanted, we would make up rules based on that particular conflict, right? We'd say, well, here's where it's different. Here's what Jesus really meant. We come up with a bunch because that's what we do. We do anything to try to miss the heart of the matter. Jesus goes for the heart of the matter. So if we're like, Jesus has an opinion about nuclear weapons, well, I mean, he goes after the heart. He goes after anger, right? I mean, like whether it's a nuclear weapon or another kind of weapon, or Cain apparently killing Abel with like a rock. His opinion goes after. We like to go after the forms. I hope I'm making sense, rather than the heart of the thing. And you don't get to peace without the way of Jesus. It's just a cobbled together thing. Like, well, we just need dialogue. Well, no, actually, we need, if we've got people who haven't dealt with their anger, dialogue can help, but it doesn't fix anything long term. It fixes nothing. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Nice being in here by myself going, does that make sense? I just think it's interesting that Jesus goes after the heart of the thing. And if we got the heart of the thing, the other stuff would take care of themselves. The other stuff. But we like to argue about the other stuff. So, yeah, genius. He is. If we dealt with the anger thing, just the Sermon on the Mount stuff, we do that. Wow. What a, what a, the Ten Commandments go after the heart of it. If we lived, just imagine, I'm doing a John Lennon thing, but with the Ten Commandments. Imagine people living by the Ten Commandments. What a wonderful world it would be. Wow. Think about the broken families that wouldn't exist. And not that the people wouldn't exist, they'd be happy. The families wouldn't be broken. If people didn't covet, wow. Obviously, there'd be no murder. I'd like to live in that society. But Jesus is going even deeper. He's going after the heart and the root of all of it. And he's going after us to spiritually change. That's why this stuff is so important. So we can be, again, emissaries from the kingdom of God. We behave differently. We react differently. And we might even surprise people when they ask us questions. We might respond with a question. That would make us like Jesus too, wouldn't it? So, yeah, not saying don't talk about this stuff or have opinions about things. Of course, I do too. So, but thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Thank you again to United Faith Mortgage too. They are great. We have just loved it. They are a small operation, but the thing is they're backed by, they're direct lenders, so they're part of a bigger thing, which means there's less red tape for them, and they have more flexibility, and they can work faster, and it's great. It's like the best of both worlds, and we've been so impressed. So thank you to them. I appreciate what they're doing for us in our mortgage that we're getting right now, and I think they can help you too, and they're great to talk to. It's unitedfaithmortgage.com. Guys, hit me with an email if you are applying this and you got any anecdotes. I'd love to read it. We're going after the heart of things, and if people want to have a discussion about wars and just wars and conflicts and when force is necessary, if it's necessary. Some people would argue that it's never necessary or called for. I can respect where people are coming from, but Jesus goes right to the heart of it. So this is our opportunity to be like him too, and to at least point to that. Whatever in the world, that's fine, but we might be the ones to be able to see that there's really a heart thing at the deepest level, at least be aware of that. And in ourselves.